Their parents had a connection to the continent, went back to the continent, stayed for a period of study, and then came back. He came back to Brazil after he did that. So it's interesting how our folks were able to stay connected to our communities there in Nigeria and have a continuous relationship with the spiritual houses known as candomblés and the tierras, the territories where those candomblés sat in Brazil. He was interested in promoting African values, infusing the religion that people were using in Brazil with the traditions of West Africa. Sound familiar? That sounds a little bit like us. We're trying to go home, so to speak, and we don't give up on America, but we're trying to get the information, bring it back, and serve our people with that information. He was an important person because he became an advisor, a leader, a teacher to a whole generation of people who were interested in keeping Nigeria's Yoruba connection alive and working in the minds and hearts of the Brazilians. In September 1937, he was part of the Second Afro-Brazilian Congress. And that Congress brought together academicians from the universities in Brazil with the traditional healers, the traditional medicine people, the traditional religious practitioners to have a conversation about what was good for black people in Brazil. They started, and Martiniano, whose Yoruba name was Ojelade, became the first president of the Union of Afro-Brazilian Sects. In other words, there were 67 organizations, candomblés and others, who were working to keep African tradition alive, and they created a union. They created an organization to promote the religion. Now, Lorenzo Turner was African American. He was born in this country. He's considered the father of Gullah studies. How much time I got left, brother?
Almost.
Okay, good. I can do this. All right, so he was considered the father of Gullah studies. So in the southeastern region of the United States and the Georgia Sea Islands and Beaufort and places like that, Lorenzo Turner became very interested in the connections between the language that people were speaking in South Carolina and in Georgia and the connections, the revivals, the retentions, the survivals of African language, food, cultural manifestations from Africa. He was born in 1890. He was born into a family of educators. His father started the first school for African Americans in eastern North Carolina. His father got into an altercation with a white man, had to leave in the middle of the night, and was later reunited with his family after he received his master's from Howard University. Lorenzo, his son, I figured you was going to take it off. Brother Shonda was a Howard alum. We cannot forget that fact. Lorenzo Turner went to Howard University High School. In 1910, he went to college, and he was a real student athlete. He was part of the debate team as well as the baseball team, and actually played for years in the black leagues, in the black baseball leagues. He went on to receive his master's degree from Harvard University following Du Bois, Alain Locke, and Carter G. Woodson, and went back to Howard to teach. Here's a quote, he was tall, lean, this is the brother.
All right.
Let me go back a second. This is Martiniano. Let's see if I can get you. Martiniano de Bonfim. In 1940, when he was being interviewed by Lorenzo Turner for his studies. And Lorenzo Turner, the picture to the right, is the image that Zora Neale Hurston, this is her quote. She says he was tall, lean, and with a head of wavy black hair. Above his thin, aesthetic, tan-colored face. I think she liked him. His delivery was soft and restrained. Listening to him, I decided that I must be an English teacher, Zora Neale Hurston.
Wow.
He went on to the University of Chicago in 1919 to pursue his PhD. He taught at Fisk, ran into problems with conservative university presidents who didn't think his work was important. He went back to Howard, ultimately taught at Roosevelt College in Chicago, where when he was at Fisk, he studied with two continental Africans, Fatuma Masigo, who knew the Bai language, and Ako Aje, who was Ga. He immersed himself in the studies of the Gullah language in 1930-1935, and as one of his colleagues said, he set about disproving the theory that the language that African people spoke was bad English, and rather engaged in a lifelong scholarly pursuit of the links that black Americans had with Africa. And this is in the 1920s, 1930s that he's doing his work. He created recordings, which still exist, of Gullah speakers. In 1933, a woman named Amelia Dolly of Harris Neck, Georgia, who was born free in 1880, sang a song that was recorded as part of his studies. It was the same song that Mende women sing today in Sierra Leone. Turner said the resemblance between West African languages and Gullah is much more striking than I had supposed. He interviewed Martiano, and he made the connection between the Yoruba religion in Brazil, the Yoruba religion of Ifa in West Africa, as well as the religious practices of the folks on the Gullah Sea Islands. Today's historical tribute is dedicated to two great storytellers, two people who preserve the history of our people, Martiniano Elisu de Bonfim and Lorenzo Dow Turner.
Right on the mark. He's through.
All right. So this morning, Sister Pam is coming forward with our litany and sacrifice. Please welcome her.
Jay.
Jay.
Got an announcement first.
Announcement?
That's okay.
Ted,
That's it.
greetings, good morning, blessings. How's everyone this morning? No less than blessed.
Blessed and blessed.
That's it. This morning I'm going to bring to you the litany of sacrifice, but before I do, in our Constitution it calls for an election of elders every 2 to 4 years, depending upon when the council seats. And in this particular case, we will be having our council of elder elections the end of October. A couple of things about that. One is Brother Ty and I have a list of members who are eligible to not only run for the council seat, but who are also eligible to vote. And those that you may want to nominate. And in nominating, I would say to you that even though it's a volunteer position and your heart being into it, I really want you to think about the positions that you would be considering running for. One, review the Constitution to know what those specific jobs are, what those specific tasks are, what you will be being committed to. It's really important as we move forward in our community.
Which positions are open? They're not all.
Right, that's correct. We're going to, next week, give out a sample of the positions that are open and balance that, what they will look like next week. But I just want you to start thinking about whether or not you may want to participate in the elections and who you may or may not want to nominate, as well as those seats who are in council now may want to continue to run and or give up the seat and run for a different one.
When you say next week, so
Next week we'll have the list of the positions that will be open.
well, we've been Marv next week, right?
Oh, that's right.
Marv.
So, probably the following week, next week,
Okay.
the week after, that will be. And he may have them online.
I can actually, we'll email them to, what are we talking about? The positions?
The positions, so we can email, we
We'll
can make
email
those available
To
to
all
us,
members.
to all members.
Okay, an email.
Yeah, okay. Giving you time to think about that. So, with that said, walk each day in the way of righteousness, and you will reach to the place to which you are bound. Never speak evil words to any visitors. A word spoken carelessly someday when you are gossiping may overturn your house. If you are found generous in times of prosperity, when adversity comes, you will be able to bear it. If you are righteous, you will be recognized and respected. Thank you, sweetheart. And whether you are among many or few, you will find your family and friends. And all you wish will be granted. Our little sister Khalid is passing around the basket as she reviews your donations.
Let you know if you put that order.
And at Ile Omode, she do know the numbers. Absolutely.
Take this
What
check
is
back.
this? We said paper, but
We're gonna have a zero on that one. Move that decimal point.
I love this community. I'll offer prayer for those of you who wish to come forward. Can we stand? Okay, so you know I'm not in practice, right?
That's all right. That's all right, sister.
Let's stand to repeat the litany of sacrifice. May these are silent. Save us, O Holy One, by your name. Vindicate us by your might. Hear my prayer, divine protector. Listen to the words of my mouth. How can we repay the Holy One for the gifts that have been given to us? We will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the God of our ancestors. We will fulfill our vows to our Creator in the presence of all our people. Gladly we bring our sacrifices to you. We will praise your name, O Amen Ra, for it is good. Umoja, unity. We will strive to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Kuchakalia, self-determination. We shall define, name, create, and speak for ourselves. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. We shall build and maintain our communities together. Our brothers and sisters' problems shall be ours to solve together. Ujima, cooperative economics. Together we shall build and maintain our own businesses and together profit from them. Nia, purpose. We shall make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community and the restoration of our people to our traditional greatness. Kumuma,
Creativity. We shall do as much as we can, in any way we can, to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited.
Iman,
Faith. We shall believe with all our hearts
and our God, our Creator,
and the righteousness and victory of our struggles.
Asher. For those who wish to come to the altar for prayer, please do so. Or find a comfortable position for prayer in your seats. O God, our Creator, God of heaven and earth, we come to you this day for prayer and thanksgiving. We thank you for all that you have been to us, all that you have done for us. We thank you for making our stumbling blocks our stepping stones. We thank you for health, wellness, strength, animosities, and adversities, because we know that it's always a test to prove that our faith is righteous. Our way is not a random path, but begins with coherent understanding of who we are. And we thank you for allowing us to learn who we are. We ask you to lead us and guide us. We thank you for Ile Omode, Warsaw community, those who could be with us this morning, those who were on their way, those who wanted to be here and could not be. We pray for our elders, our sick and shut in. We ask you to open our hearts and minds to receive the message that is going to be given to us today. We thank you for those that could give this morning to help us keep our institution running after more than 30 years. And we thank you. We thank you for those who had the desire and the spirit to give, but not the monetary. We thank you for their time and their talent and the resources that they bring to this community. And as we go forward, we ask you, watch over us, protect us from all hurt, harm, and danger. These blessings I ask in your most righteous and holy name. We give thanks. Ashe. Amen.
They made the Satan black and strong to look like you. Then they told me that they look like you. Somehow doesn't ring quite true. So please God, on their curse, set me free. I have been taught to curse my ancestors and it seems to entertain the ones who love to curse. God, please release me from the love of my destruction. Show the peace and love you give to me again. Please do not curse the ones who nurtured cursing me. And do not curse those who enslaved me in their fields. Curse not even those who steal my soul with drugs, booze, and brutality. They don't need to curse God. They need to be. I call both you and me in names that sound so foreign. From foreign lands and many foreign tongues I call. Sometimes I wonder what I'm saying, God. Does it make any sense? God, it's amazing grace that I can speak it all. Free me from the need to curse and exploit scapegoats. And from the cotton picking prison industry, show me the peaceful one these killers plan to worship. They think it's them, I know it's you, so set me free. Manifest this heart of mine with freedom, peace, and love, unbounded by the curse of their deserted virtues. Help me walk your way again and speak to all as your two friends, your peace and healing are some things we all.
Get you some orange juice. Sure. I'm in right there. What was that? How y'all doing?
All right.
Good, very good. I'm here for one purpose, and one only.
Okay.
Get that man a rest right there. So, you take a pill, man. Go to sleep, take a nap, do something. Do something. Enjoy yourself, man. How y'all doing? Having a good day?
Yeah.
Every day. Cool. I had a great weekend.
Okay, all right.
So Friday night I go home. I got bedroom class. My daughter has homecoming next. I think it's next Friday or 2 Friday, something like that. Anyway, she had to go shopping for homecoming day.
For sure.
Homecoming dress. I'm sorry, homecoming dress.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You got to get a homecoming dress, you know. And there are 2 parents in our household. One is the father and one is the mother. And on Friday, who do you think that she asked to go shopping for a dress?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She ain't here. That was me. We let her come along. We put her in the back seat. You know, she could just tag along. The dress she picked out was my dress, though. I actually put together her ensemble. So, yeah, I'm giving myself mad props right now.
Where was the neckline? Where was the neckline?
The neckline.
The neckline. Yeah, right here. You know, I'm gonna get y'all a picture though. It was nice. It was nice. Yeah. So I gonna keep y'all. I actually got my coach's khakis on right here because I got to get in the car. We got a football game that's going on about 1:30, so I'll be racing down there. And I try to not miss any games. So I broad page my mother's playbook. I played football when I was in high school, middle school, ran track. My mother never missed a single event that I had. Not one. And so I try to take a page out of her book and make sure that when my kids are doing something, I'm front and center, checking them out, supporting them. So we rolling. Won't keep it long. So I want to share just a couple stories we did today. Probably be more than that. The stories that we all know that we're very familiar with, but sometimes our behavior suggests that we have forgotten not the story, but sometimes the message that's in the story. So we need to be reminded sometimes. Our stories are not always contained in books. We don't have necessarily the holy book in a way that perhaps the folks of Jerusalem have, the holy books, the Bible and such. We do have, of course, through C and things like that. But I think the stories that we have are so deep. There's so many of them that you really can't bound our stories in a traditional book. There's too much to say. Every Sunday we have a So Contribute is really a reflection on one of those many stories. And there's always a message in those stories. So I'm here to remind you of a couple of things that you already know. Our tradition is oral. There are disadvantages to having an oral tradition because sometimes if we stop telling the stories to each other, then we forget the lessons in the story. So these things are very important. I'm reminded of a story from Booker T. Washington and the egg, I'll call it. I'm also reminded of a story from Mary McLeod Bethune. It's really the same story. We'll call it, her story is Mary McLeod Bethune and a sweet potato pie. Okay. And the story is really the same story. Booker T. Washington, as you know, was a teacher at Hampton over in Virginia, and he got a call, telegram, a message from some folks in Tuskegee who wanted to start a school. And you should know some of this story, yes? Mm-hmm. And in that story, there were 2 people. There was a white council person, a politician in the area, who also was a former enslaver. And there was a brother who had rose up after the period of slavery, and he became a prominent person in the community. And so the white politician came to the brother and said, I'd like your support for an election coming up. And the brother could ask for anything. He could ask for some money, some favors. But what he asked for is, I want your support to fund and support a school. So they sent this letter out to, you fast forward a few months. A letter goes out, it's received at Hampton, and Booker T arrives. He arrives at the place that would soon be Tuskegee. But when he gets there, of course, there's literally nothing. There's no building. There's no students. There's not even timber on the ground to construct the building. There literally is nothing. We're not familiar with nothing. We live in a city.
Right.
We can't afford nothing. If there's nothing, we're going to build something there.
Yeah.
If there's not, we'll add on top of something. We don't have nothing. We construct parks. We build parks. We plant trees. We don't accommodate nothing in the city. He stood in the middle of nothing.
Come on, come on.
So, there was this, as the story goes, there was an elder in the community, an elder woman, and she lived a good distance away. She heard about this scholarly gentleman arriving from some place in the east to start a school. And she put her Sunday best on and took a walk. I would say down the street, but they didn't have a street, wasn't any roads. She was just walking through the woods. And arrived and saw him and came to him. And what she had in her hand was a basket. And in the basket she had several eggs. And she said, Mr. Washington, this is all that I have to offer you. But I want to give you these eggs to go feed and take care of these babies. That story is repeated oftentimes in our community. I mentioned Mary McLeod Bethune because her story was about sweet potatoes. She made sweet potato pie and sold that to raise money, among other things that she did. But it's our folks who are driven to do these things. These ancestors, this is Booker T. Washington, Mary McLeod Bethune, the eldest sister whose name, history is kind of forgotten. They had no notion of a legal responsibility to educate kids. The truth is that for some of our parents in Oakland, if it wasn't a legal obligation to have their kids in school, they probably wouldn't be in school.
Come on.
That's the truth.
Tell the truth.
So they didn't understand this legal notion, but they clearly understood they had a moral obligation to educate people. That is, they were obligated to create institutions to raise their and our children. Some would call this education, but for our purposes, that term is a little too limiting. Because as we understand from the Lucia, it calls for us, it says that it is in the development of character that instruction succeeds. It's about creating people of great character, not just technical training. We learn from these examples the notion of service. What does service mean? That service is critical, it's fundamental to who we are. Like the King said, that we can all be great because we can all do what? We can all serve. I think that's one of his most important quotes, because if you get nothing else from Dr. King, you get the notion of that you got to serve others. That your life should be dedicated to helping other people, not for yourself. We are people that are called to service. In this, we're not unlike every other folks. We're not unlike any other religious community. Most religious communities are about service. The difference for us, I think, is that it's not based on a mandate, a spiritual dogma, a so-called mission. And I'm always marveled at when I see the white guys with the little ties riding their bikes from my neighborhood. Do you really have to be here, right? I don't have any complaint. I don't have a formal complaint that I can post. I just don't like it. Right? So for us, our notion of service is it's about survival. That's what it is. We serve because we had to survive. After the aftermath of the Civil War ended, when the country lay in near ruin, and it was in near ruin. America had nearly collapsed from the Civil War. There was a brief period when the federal government sought to provide services for the freedmen. That would be us. But like many things political, the winds changed and the country grew tired of us. We gave y'all a few years, we helped you out. We got something to do. Right? So we looked around and realized that there was no help. There was no safety net. Whatever it is that we wanted to do, that we needed, we had to create it. Us. You couldn't have anybody to rely on. So we assisted each other. After finding a place to live, whether it was on a sharecropper's place or the few folks who had some land, we formed communities. And nearly every single one of these communities, every single one did two things, and in a certain order. One was they built a church. The second thing they built was what? A school.
Yeah.
Every single community.
Yes.
Church, followed by a school.
Yes.
Sometimes they ran out of timber. They were combined together.
Well, come on.
This is interesting because, for obvious reasons. I don't like to go any further, do I? It's a little obvious. As I said, I don't belabor the point, but I will! So almost everyone attended the school, either morning or afternoon. Booker T. Washington scribed early Tuskegee. It was not a school for children. It was a school for adults. His first addition to the pedagogy in America was really about adult education. He wrote a book about adult education. How do you educate adults? It wasn't about children. They understood these things were all linked together, and for other reasons. When African Americans talked to the community, they meant their neighbors, their church, and their school. That's what they meant. All one unit. There was no separation. They believed that creating a school was a sacred obligation. Bethune-Cookman, Clark Atlanta, Dillard, Fisk, Meharry Medical, Morehouse, Morgan State, Morris Brown, Spelman, Wilberforce were all begun by churches, every single one of them. Even the few that were not directly the result of churches owe their existence to churches. Tuskegee, as an example, was able to get its first land from a church. They built their first house or their first schooling right next to a church. So even when it's not direct, it's most definitely indirect. For all these folks, there's the idea that there was no separation. Although for us, Ile Omode was begun by Wolsey mothers, we have lost our institutional memory and a collective consciousness. We don't really remember that anymore. It's not embedded in us anymore. And part of it for us is that our kids, for the most part, are not at the school. See, it would be a lot different. This conversation would be very different if nearly all of you had kids who were school age, who were here upstairs all day long. You would have a different sort of interaction with your school. But of course, as we've gotten older, most of you have children who are adults. So this connection is not really a hard line to the school. It's kind of it's almost like a godparent. It's not a parent anymore. For some of you, it's kind of a grandparent. Help out on the weekends, relax a little bit. But for most of us, it's kind of like a godparent. If you need something, call me. It's a godparent.
Yeah.
If something happened, give me a call.
Major.
Major. Because otherwise, I got stuff to do. So it's almost like we're godparents.
Well, come on.
Right? Not all of us, but most of us. Some are grandparents and some are, like as Mama Fine, are parents. It's a little different, if that makes sense to you. So we don't remember the time when we stood in this space and we called for a desire to create, to give life to a place to both protect, educate, and love our children and their families. Over time, some of us have come to view this as an entity unto itself or a separate operation. It's another thing. Church and the school side. We have become, as Ikwe Armour has described, a people who separate things from themselves.
Teach good,
Who
Bob.
take a thing and start cutting it up, to analyze it and dissect it. And that's kind of how we're doing a little bit. Granted, there are other ways besides the school that a spiritual community can serve. There are a lot of things that churches do and need to do. Food banks, shelter for the homeless, there's clothing, there's free health services. There are a lot of things. But I'm reminded of a school for one reason, for really two reasons. One, which I described earlier, that if we look at how our folks did it, they created school. And the second reason is what Gregory Douglas said. And he said that it is easier, and I love this quote, he said it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I'll repeat that. It's easier to build up strong children than fix them at the end. A lot easier. So if we don't succeed in our mission, our effort, right here, right now, we'll continue to produce girls who prostitute themselves. You can drive down East 14th and you see a lot of young sisters walking the street. We'll continue to produce young black men who see other young black men as enemies. And we'll continue to produce professional, educated, middle-class young black people who see all the other folks as somebody else's responsibility. If we don't succeed right here, right now. So sometimes we forget this notion of service as central to our institutional existence, but it becomes so easy for us to simply put in time. Sometimes we just kind of push time along. We come to service on a Sunday and we enjoy each other's company. We have a good time. Maybe we get involved in a committee, share some ideas, print out an agenda, make some minutes, share it, dialogue. But is that always about service? Who are we serving? So we do these things and it becomes easy for us to think about what is the thing that's in front of us but not actually serving other people. I want to remind you that as a member of WOZA, you are a stakeholder. You're a stakeholder. I would say I like the term stakeholders for us a little bit better. When I got to our school back in 2002, maybe 2003, I forgot when I actually came on board here. We had 6 teachers. 6 teachers. We had 35 students for a long time. A long time. Today, we, that is you, employ 17 people. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. That's more than your local Starbucks.
Come on.
We employ 17 people. That is 17 people. Most of them are full-time. I think 12 to 13 are full-time, the rest are part-time. Those people pay their mortgage and their rent and feed their kids off of the institution that you created. That's powerful.
I should.
That's powerful. You know, when we talk about a black institution and economic development, it doesn't. You have to look any further than the place that you created, that you constructed. 17 people. Today, we have 92 children that we serve every single day. 92.
I should.
Now, most public schools, I don't know, 500, I don't know what. There's a lot. So in some ways, 92 is not a lot, but for us, that's a whole lot of people. You know, for those, how many of you here were on the first day of school? Raise your hand here on the first day of school. Right? So besides the folks that are working here, maybe like one or two, y'all missed something. You missed something.
Amazing.
You missed possibly one of the greatest services that your community is engaged in.
And the community enjoyed it, because
And
they
the
were
community.
hanging outside the fence watching.
We had, weather was beautiful. Moms had cooked up a wonderful meal. Place was packed. Right? When we have an event here, when there's the first day of school, if you look around, the folks who are here right now, it's way more than this. Not even counting the kids. Right? So the first day, 92 kids out here in the yard. Parents on the yard. We're drumming and singing. As you described, folks in the neighborhood literally stopped at the fence just to witness it all. It's a powerful sight. Yeah? And it's unfortunate that a lot of y'all, you didn't get a chance to see that. And I wish you could have. Because you'd have understood the amazement of what happens here every day. You have the trust of almost over 70 families. They trust you enough to bring their kids here and leave them. And those kids come here every single day. We're here on Sunday for a few hours. They're here Monday through Friday for 40 to 50 hours. Think about that for a second. Their children, these are families who they don't share our religious view. Most of them don't. At least half of them are devout Christians. And they come here anyway. This is how powerful institution that you have created is. Their children learn to pour libation. They learn to say the African pledge. They drum. They learn cuckoo and kakilambe as part of the instruction. They dance. They study the history of Angolan Zinga and geometry, and sometimes in the same day. There is no place in this area that is like the school that you created. There's no other place like this anywhere in this area. I would go a little further, but I haven't researched everything, so I'm going to contain it. But I know in this area, you're not going to find this. A spot that you created. So, but our goal is not simply about educating our children so they can compete at the most competitive high schools because they can. And it's not about ensuring our kids are going to college because they will. We know these things will happen. But if this is all we're able to do, then at best, all we create are individuals who are competent. That's it. But without purpose. And at worst, just imitation Europeans. We see them all the time, don't we? You've worked with some imitation Europeans. Mary McLeod Bethune, in her last will and testament, she wrote, "I leave you a thirst for education. I leave you a thirst for education." She says, Negroes are taking full advantage of hard-won opportunities for learning, and the educational level of the Negro population is at its highest point in history. That was over 100 years ago. If, she says, if we continue, again writing, 67 years ago, she says, if we continue in this trend, we will be able to rear increasing numbers of strong, purposeful men and women equipped with vision, mental clarity, health, and education. If we continue. Which raises the question, have we continued? Our graduation rate in Oakland for African Americans is about 50%. Plus or minus some change, depending on how they track it, whether it's the Oakland Unified School District tracking it, they got their own formula. California has its own formula. There's another Harvard University. It's plus or minus a few. 48%, 50%. It's a lot. You can take a kid in 9th grade, a black kid enters in 9th grade to any high school in Oakland, and if you want to know if they're going to graduate, take a coin at your pocket and flip it. Heads they will, tails they won't. That's how bad it is. I mean, that is horrific. McClymonds, most of these high schools, quite a few, graduate less than 20 African-American young men. McClymonds last year graduated 12 African-American men. There's a great need. But our vision, as I close here, our vision must be greater for us. Our collective brain thrust must marshal our fullest talents and develop a full educational system that is authentically African both culturally and spiritually, and pulls the greatest elements of what it means to be African American, a system that doesn't simply offer graduation, but is in fact a rite of passage. I want us to do more. We have moved from 1986 to today, the beginning of Ile Omode, and we've continued to grow. But our mission is much broader than that. It's much greater than that. And I want us all to be engaged in the fullest of this vision. We need a way to ensure that we produce Africans who are certainly talented and skilled, but walk their purpose and understand their responsibility to divine. Imagine if we were to construct such a model. When I first came to the school, I'm not into creating, a better wheel. It's the point. So I looked around, Dr. Asa Hilliard and other folks who are in education, and I looked for a curriculum that we could take. There's no point in building another curriculum if it already exists out there. I made phone calls. I bought books. Where is the African curriculum for our people today? That is, I would be able to order it up, $39.99, to come with a big old binder and a videotape and instructional. And if you wanted to pay the extra $1,000, they'd send over teachers to train you, to do our thing. And you know what? It doesn't exist. It does not exist. They had an event about I don't remember, getting older, so it was a long time ago, it was in the past, at Allen Temple, and they had it was a great weekend, they brought in all the scholars. Asa Hilliard was there, other folks, and I asked him personally, brother, I would love, I've seen all your work on education, I would love to get from you a curriculum. And he says, quite honestly, that's one of the things that the elder scholars had failed at. They never produced a curriculum. Are you seeing the need that is existing, that is sitting right here for us to feel? Imagine if we were to construct this model and offer this up to other people. Imagine we could be like a Sar and a Set and bring the message and the curriculum of Ile Omode, an educational institution of Wose, to every black community in America. And we could take what we do here, push it further, refine it, tighten up, and actually have a curriculum in hand that we can then walk to other folks, go to LA, go to San Francisco, go to Virginia, go down south, and as trainers, go train folks in the way of educating in the Wose way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That as Wose, we shepherd a new class of young people every year, and for which our elders, that is you, play a central role in their development. I want you to have a hand in shepherding these kids through. That is not just ceremonial, although I do want some of the ceremony. I want to see the next graduation we have next June, that Wose elders bring in the graduating class. This is as it should be. I want Wose elders to be engaged in training up these kids, because this is the product of your community. Because it's much bigger than just, here's a house at the church, here's a house at the school. This is just our community, y'all. I'm asking that you change your view of Ile Omode not simply as your school or some separate operation, but as our greatest legacy and the fulfillment of our largest vision.
Yes.
I want to leave you one more story. Is the tape running? Does it work? If you can turn the recorder off. There's a kid at your school, and she came here